Hello everybody, this is Ryan, and today we are learning about working with a math object. So the math object is a built-in object in JavaScript, has properties and it has methods. Interesting thing about the math object is it can't have children. So that means you can't go and say var x is equal to new math. No such thing. You have to use the math object directly. Reason for this is because math is always going to be the same. 1 plus 1 is always going to be equal to 2. Square root of 16 is always going to be equal to 4. So it doesn't work the same as with other objects where you could have different variations of the original object. Maths is always going to be the same. So let's start by looking at some of the properties. One property we could use is the par property. So if I say block.innerHTML, I could say math.py and use it directly. So we use the math object directly. Math dot and the particular property that you want to use. And there's the value of pi. So obviously pi has far more decimals than this, but JavaScript will only show that number of decimals when working with pi. So if you ever need to do any formulas with circles, this is especially going to be more and more used by the animation industry, those that do any kind of animation in a circular motion or anything like that. You'd use the formula for pi. Okay, in terms of the other properties, none of them would be that useful. Let's move on to looking at some of the methods from the math object. We'll start by looking at the max method. The max method takes a whole lot of numbers and calculates the largest of the list of numbers and displays it. So out of that list of numbers, 600 is the largest number. I also have a min function which determines the smallest of the set of numbers. In this case that would be a 4. Some other functions, the power function raises one number to the power of another number. So in this case we have 2 to the power of 3, which is 8. Square root of 16 would be 4. Okay, then the round method, very important. If I try and round off a number, let's say 16.725 whole long number. Unfortunately, JavaScript can only round off to the nearest whole number. So if I have 16.2, that would end up being 16. If I have 16.5 something, that will end up being 17. So if I wanted to round this number off to 2 decimal places, what I would need to do is I would need to move the comma 2 places to the right. So let's do the step by step. The original number, take that number, multiply it by 100. That would leave me with 1652.592. So that's moving the comma 2 places to the right. Then I would round that off. So I'd say num is equal to math.round num. That would leave me with, remember round rounds off to the nearest whole number, so that would leave me with 1653. Then I would need to reverse what I did previously, so divide by 100 again. And that would give me the final answer of 16.53. Let's try this out. Display num to the screen. And there we have it, 16.53. So unfortunately you have to go through a few hoops before you can round off to a certain number of decimal places. If you want to round off to 1 decimal place, just multiply by 10 and then divide by 10. So that obviously would then be 165 0.2592. Round that off to the nearest whole number and you'd get 165. And then you would need to divide by 10 again, which would give you 16.5. If you wanted to round off to 3 decimal places, you'd multiply by 1000 and then divide by 1000 again, and so on. Another function that is similar to the round function is the ceil function. So with this function you could say math.ceil and the number. Ceil stands for ceiling, which means it will always round up to the nearest whole number. Even if it's 16.2 or something like that, it should still be 17 because it's always going to round up. In the same way, you could use math.floor, which will always round down no matter what. So even if it's 16.8 something, I'm still going to land up with 16. So if you ever want to chop off the decimal place of a number, this is one way of doing it. Just simply floor the number. Another useful function is being able to generate random numbers. So if I want to generate a random number, I can use the math.random function. This will generate a number that's random between 0 and 1. So if every time I refresh, I should get a new random number. But unfortunately, being a decimal number, it's not that useful to me. So what I'll need to do is multiply by whatever I want the maximum number to be. So if I want a random number between 1 and 5, I must multiply by 5. And then I'll always get a random number between 1 and 5. From there, I should probably ceil it or floor it to get rid of the decimal place. So if I ceil it, it will give me a number between 1 and 5. If I floor it, it will give me a number between 0 and 4. Okay, so now I've got a number between 1 and 5, including 5. But if I floor it, I'll get a number between 0 and 4. And I'll never get 5. So different applications require different functions. I think most of the time we'll use math.ceil. If you're using an array of some sort, you would use math.floor. And that ends our lesson on the math object.